Covering crime now and stats that show Tulsa's homicide rate is on a slower pace this year. There have been 24 so far this year compared to 34 at this time last year. News on 6 crime reporter Lori Fulbright has the story for us, new at 6. Lori.
Well, Scott, we decided to look at Tulsa's past homicides and break them down by sex, race, weapon, and motive. Some of what we learned was surprising.
Homicide is considered the most serious of all crimes, the taking of another human life. The FBI says 1,180 people have been murdered in Tulsa in the past 30 years. 957 of those cases have been solved, which is an 81% rate, far above the national average of around 60. And those numbers don't include cases that were solved the next year or years later. Homicide Sergeant Mike Huff has been in Tulsa's homicide squad during that 30 years and is proud of their record, but focuses more on those families still waiting for answers.
We develop relationships with these people and we look at each case, case by case.
The vast majority of those killed in Tulsa are men at 76%. Many of them were young, nearly half were between 20 and 34 years old. Most of them were white, 52%. 43% were black, the rest Asian, Hispanic, and Indian. Most were killed with handguns, 52%. That was followed by knives, then beatings.
People are much more quick to use violence now than they were back then. Now, 14 or 15-year-old kids are emptying clips of weapons of an assault rifle from a moving vehicle. I mean, that's just crazy.
Most victims were killed over some type of argument. Despite what people might think, only about 5% were gang killings. 10% were killed during robberies, another 10% drug-related, and 3% were lovers' triangles. In all but just a few cases, there is a common denominator.
Most people know the person that killed them.
Police say, of course, that it's much harder, they believe, to solve crimes now than in years past because criminals are smarter about crime scene evidence and do things like pick up shell casings, something they didn't see 15, 20 years ago. Plus, people are more reluctant to get involved as witnesses. Lori Fulbright, the News on 6.